Still driving that old car? My cousin Leah said it with her nose wrinkled, like she'd smelled something foul. Her brother Tyler snorted. Didn't you inherit a whole business? Guess none of it made it to your garage. Laughter erupted around the dinner table. Aimed at me. Always at me. My name is Renee. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been underestimated so deeply that your success felt like betrayal to the people who should have celebrated you? I stared down at my plate. Dried chicken, overcooked rice, and humiliation served fresh. It was a family dinner at Aunt Diane's house, and I already regretted showing up. The same house I used to mow the lawn for as a teenager while they sipped lemonade and told me maybe college wasn't for everyone. Now they sat around me in new watches and old mindsets, still convinced that I was the black sheep who never made it out of the dirt. And when Leah made that comment about my car, I just smiled gently and shrugged. It runs fine, I said. She probably doesn't know what a car payment feels like, Tyler added, elbowing his cousin like they were tag-teaming a comedy routine. And maybe they thought I'd bite back. Maybe they wanted me to snap, to lose composure, to prove I was still the outsider. But I didn't, because I had something better than a comeback. Just then, my phone buzzed in my purse. I glanced at it, tapped once, and stood. Sorry. I need to take this. They smirked like I was trying to escape the heat. I stepped just outside onto the veranda. The sun was setting in soft gold. I raised the phone to my ear. Yes, I said calmly. My assistant's voice came through crisp and clear. Hi, Renee. Just confirming your jet has landed. They've brought the rolls around and pre-cleared customs. We're ready whenever you are. I turned back toward the open window of the dining room and paused. The silence inside was total. I hadn't meant for them to hear, but I hadn't exactly hidden either. When I walked back in, I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The air had changed. Leah's fork was frozen midair. Tyler blinked like someone had unplugged his brain. Jet, my uncle finally asked, eyes squinting. I just smiled politely and sat back down. Business trip. Early morning. I didn't elaborate. That was the power. Because here's the thing. They thought they knew who I was. That I was the quiet girl with the dusty sedan and hand-me-down handbags. What they didn't know was that I was the CEO of the very company they'd laughed at me for starting. That I owned more real estate than our entire family combined. That the car I drove wasn't because I couldn't afford better. It was because I remembered where I came from and I never wanted to forget. They mocked me for staying grounded. But they were about to learn what it looks like when someone rises in silence. And next, I was going to show them exactly why you never laugh at someone who's still climbing. Because when they reach the top, they remember every word. My cousins always believed that success was inherited, not earned. They grew up in manicured houses with silver spoons and granite countertops. I grew up watching my mom fold diner tips into envelopes labeled rent and electric with the kind of precision that only desperation teaches. My dad disappeared before I turned 7. No note. No warning. Just gone. And while my aunt and uncle sent their kids to summer camps and private tennis coaches, I spent my summers babysitting their spoiled children for $4 an hour because, as Aunt Diane once said, it's good for her to learn responsibility. What I learned instead was that love in our family came with conditions. They smiled when you served them, scoffed when you stood on your own. When I was 17, I got into 3 good colleges. Full scholarships. I told the family over dinner one night, heart pounding, eyes sparkling. Leah rolled her eyes. Wow. Must be nice when you don't have to pay for it. Uncle Greg added, college doesn't make you successful. It just makes you debt-ridden. My mother was the only one who clapped. Quietly. With tears in her eyes. They mocked me again when I started a company instead of getting a safe job. It was a messy startup. Small-scale logistics for minority-owned food suppliers. Not sexy. Not flashy. Definitely not respectable enough for family barbecues. Tyler laughed when he saw me making deliveries myself. You? Running a business? Thought you were going to be the next Oprah, not UPS. Leah once said, it's kind of embarrassing, isn't it? Like playing entrepreneur? But I kept working. Nights, weekends, holidays. I reinvested every penny. I lived in a studio apartment that was half storage closet. Ate ramen. Lost sleep. Gained grit. My mother passed just before I turned 26. Heart failure. Years of overwork and stress finally caught up. She never saw my first warehouse open. But she did leave me a note I found tucked inside her recipe book. They won't see you coming, baby. And when they do, it'll be too late to catch up. I built the company in her name. Emmy Freight Solutions. Her initials. Her legacy. And in 2 years, I turned it into a multi-million-dollar logistics empire. Private fleet. Global contracts. 27 employees. But I didn't tell the family. Why would I? They had already decided who I was. The girl with a sad backstory, a used car, and unrealistic dreams. I let them believe it. Let them joke. Let them gawk at my old Corolla with peeling paint and a squeaky window. Because to them, that car was proof I hadn't made it. But to me, that car was the steering wheel I gripped every night when I cried behind the wheel after 14-hour shifts. It was the front seat where I'd read my mother's note over and over. It was the one constant reminder that I was still moving forward, even when it felt like the world was driving past me. They saw rust. I saw roots. And when that assistance call came through at dinner, it wasn't a flex. It was a reminder that I didn't owe them explanations, just consequences. After that dinner, everything shifted. Not for me, I was already living in my truth, but for them. My cousins, my aunt, my uncle, suddenly they were curious. I'd spent years being invisible in this family. But now, I was a headline they couldn't stop clicking. 3 days after the dinner, Leah sent me a message on Instagram. Hey girl, didn't know you were flying private these days, LOL. Smiling face with heart eyes, we should totally catch up. Tyler posted a story the same day. A boomerang of him holding a cup of espresso at some pop-up cafe with the caption, Grind time briefcase, manifesting boss vibes fire. He'd never posted about work before. That's when it hit me. It wasn't the jet that shook them. It was the fact that I'd passed them by and never told them. I wasn't bragging. I wasn't flashing my wealth. I wasn't begging for validation. And that silence made them desperate to know more. They had lived their entire lives believing wealth meant power and power meant control. That they were the standard to be measured by. But I'd walked right past them, quietly, completely, and they hadn't seen it coming. So now, they were scrambling. And then something happened that confirmed just how much it was eating at them. I got a call from a supplier who'd referred me to a new client, a boutique grocer in another city. Great lead. But the conversation took a strange turn. The manager said, One of your cousins? I think his name was Tyler? He reached out to us last week. Said you recommended him. But his numbers were off. And he couldn't explain how his logistics worked. I froze. Tyler was trying to use my name. I thanked the manager, hung up, and sat there for a long minute. He didn't congratulate me. He didn't apologize for mocking me. He didn't even ask me directly. He just tried to steal a piece of what I'd built and hoped I wouldn't find out. But I did. And it didn't stop there. Over the next week, 2 more people messaged me about family members name-dropping Emmy Freight. Leah had apparently pitched a fake consulting service to a local boutique using my company's portfolio as her past experience. She was presenting my warehouses, my deliveries, my hard work as hers. That's when it stopped being annoying and became personal. They hadn't just dismissed me. They were now trying to cash in on the image they once laughed at. The girl they called a failure? Now suddenly, she was their golden ticket. But they'd forgotten something important. You can't steal from someone who's already 2 steps ahead. So I started tracking everything. Screenshots, emails, voice notes, fake invoices. Not to retaliate, to prepare. Because I knew exactly how this story ended. They wanted to wear my success like a costume. But I was about to show them the price of pretending to be someone you once tried to bury. They played small games. I was about to make a big move. And the only thing better than rising is rising while they're still trying to figure out how you did it. I could have called them out publicly. Could have embarrassed them the way they tried to embarrass me all my life. But that would have given them something they didn't deserve. Attention. Instead, I chose something quieter, sharper, more permanent. First, I called my legal team. Emmy Freight had a small but powerful legal department. Two brilliant women who had seen this kind of thing before. I laid it all out. The name dropping, the fake pitches, the way Leah and Tyler were using our brand to sell themselves to clients. My team moved fast. Cease and desist letters were drafted within hours. But I didn't send them. Not yet. I wanted to watch them dig deeper first. So I played dumb. I replied to Leah's Instagram message. Sure. We should catch up soon. Let me know when you're free. She bit instantly. Within a day, she invited me to coffee. Just us girls. We met at a trendy cafe, where she wore designer shades and talked like we were old friends who hadn't been emotionally distant for 2 decades. She asked questions. Too many. So, what's your average profit margin? What kind of software do you use for scheduling? Are your trucks diesel or hybrid? Just curious. I smiled through all of it, gave vague answers, watched her brain spin behind her fake lashes. Then she said it. Tyler and I are thinking of starting something similar. You'd be so proud. We even mocked up a little proposal. Wanna see? She handed me her phone. There it was, my logo, my trucks, even a photo of one of my warehouses. Photoshopped into a mock pitch deck with her name on the cover. I looked up, stunned at her audacity. She mistook it for awe. I left that meeting with everything I needed. That night, I sent the cease and desist notices to both of them. Certified mail. Legal headers. Real consequences. I didn't write them myself, but if I had, they would have started with, you should have thought twice before mocking the woman whose playbook you're now trying to plagiarize. The next day, I filed formal trademark infringement notices. My company's brand, its name, even the color palette, fully protected. Their fake documents were now grounds for action. But the most satisfying piece of the puzzle? I called the boutique grocer Leah had pitched, and I booked them myself. Offer them better rates. Quicker turnaround. A dedicated liaison. They signed the contract within 48 hours. Leah lost her fake client before she even got started. Tyler's story unraveled just as quickly. A partner he'd tried to rope in for a new delivery startup backed out the moment he got the legal notice. His rep was burned before the website even went live. The cousins who once laughed at my rusted car now had to sit in rooms and explain how they'd impersonated the very woman they once called embarrassing. And me? I said nothing. Didn't post about it. Didn't gloat. Because real power doesn't shout. It moves quietly, like a tide rising while they're still building castles in the sand. And when it hits, they drown in their own disbelief. They tried to copy the brand. But I am the brand. And this was only the beginning. By the time the legal notices reached their doors, the group chat exploded. I wasn't in it, obviously, never had been. But my cousin Tara, the only one with a conscience, sent me screenshots. The panic in their texts was everything I expected and more. Tyler. Bro, is she serious? We're family. Leah. She didn't have to go nuclear. It was just a mock-up. Tara. Y'all literally tried to steal her company's image. She just protected her work. Like any boss would. They weren't mad because I embarrassed them. They were mad because I didn't warn them. Because I didn't play the role I was born into, the quiet, grateful girl from the struggling branch of the family tree. The one who took jokes and served casseroles and kept her head down. They didn't expect me to fight back. And they never expected me to win. Tyler tried damage control first. He emailed me, full of typos and backpedaling. Hey, cuz, total misunderstanding on the whole logistics thing. Just experimenting with a few ideas. Didn't mean any harm. Hope we can just forget this. I replied once. Thanks for reaching out. My legal team will take it from here. All the best. No smiley face. No warmth. Just corporate precision. Leah went silent. Not a single word. But a week later, I heard through the grapevine she'd canceled a brunch business meeting with 3 boutique owners because her name was now flagged for misrepresentation. One of them was my client now. Meanwhile, my actual business? Thriving. Our expansion was ahead of schedule. I just signed a deal with a luxury food brand for a 5-year transport partnership. I was speaking at 2 conferences that fall, one about women-led entrepreneurship, the other about corporate identity theft, and how to protect your brand. Irony? Delicious. But the final blow didn't come from me. It came from my grandmother. She called a family dinner. Another one. Same long table. Same 4 smiles. I almost didn't go. But something told me this one would be different. When I walked in, I noticed the energy immediately. Quieter. Uneasy. Grandma stood at the head of the table with her cane, and as soon as everyone was seated, she spoke. "I want to say something," she said. "About Renee." You could hear a pin drop. She started with nothing. She buried her mother too young. And not one of you helped her when she was working double shifts and building something from the ground up. No one looked at me. I heard how some of you laughed. I saw how you talked down to her. And now you want pieces of what she built? You're not family. You're opportunists. Leah turned red. Tyler shifted uncomfortably. And let me be clear, Grandma added. The next time I hear anyone mock her or try to steal from her again, you won't be invited back to this table. Silence. Tense. Burning. Beautiful. I didn't say a word that night. I didn't need to. Because everything they thought I wasn't, powerful, respected, untouchable, was sitting right in front of them. They used to think I didn't belong at that table. But now? I owned the table. And the room knew it. After Grandma's speech, the shift became permanent. Tyler stopped showing up to family events. His pride couldn't handle the spotlight turning away from him. Leah, on the other hand, kept coming, but the glint in her eye was gone. She barely spoke to me, and when she did, her voice was tight, controlled. Like she knew that one wrong word might crack the last shred of dignity she had left. But the fallout didn't stop with them. Their parents, my aunt and uncle, began to feel it too. Clients in their small real estate business started pulling out. A few cited brand confusion after seeing Leah's fake proposals floating around online. Word travels fast in tight professional circles. And in our community, reputation is currency. They tried to spin it, of course. Claimed they were restructuring or focusing on family more. But the truth leaked out in whispers and side eyes. They used Renee's company logo, tried to pass off her fleet as their own. After mocking her for years, it wasn't just embarrassing. It was pathetic. I stayed silent. I posted nothing, said nothing. But the irony echoed through every interaction. At events, people gravitated toward me, not them. At church, people whispered praises about how far I'd come. Even the cousins who used to ignore me now smiled a little too brightly and asked, "So, how's business?" They weren't curious. They were terrified of being next. And Tyler? He finally reached out again. But this time, it wasn't an email. It was a typed letter on actual paper, dropped off at the front desk of my company headquarters. "Renee, I messed up. Big time. I let my ego convince me I could fake what you built. And now everything I was building is gone before it even started. I'm sorry I ever laughed at you. If you ever need anything, I owe you. Big time. T." I read it once, then folded it, and filed it away in a drawer labeled unpaid debts. Because I didn't need his apology to heal. The collapse was never about revenge. I didn't need to burn anything down. I just needed to stand. And the second I did, they began to sink in the hole they dug for me. Meanwhile, my own life bloomed. I opened a second headquarters in Atlanta, hired more women into leadership, launched a mentorship program for young entrepreneurs from underserved communities, kids like I used to be. And every time I got in my old car, that little beat-up Corolla, I smiled. I still drove it. Not out of necessity, out of principle. Because the engine that once carried me through sleepless nights still ran like it had something to prove. Just like me. So while they scrambled to rebuild what they never really had, I expanded in silence. One contract at a time. One flight at a time. One legacy at a time. And they were stuck where they started. Mocking shadows. Watching the girl they underestimated become the woman they couldn't reach. 6 months later, I stood in the hangar beside my private jet as the wind whipped through my coat and my assistant checked her clipboard with precision. Across the tarmac, a team of new hires unloaded product samples headed to our partners overseas. From a beat-up Corolla to a fleet of trucks and air freight? Yeah, we had come a long way. But my rise wasn't built on revenge. It was built on memory. I remembered the nights my mother cried silently at the kitchen table when rent was due. I remembered the pitying looks from family as I poured punch at their parties, knowing full well I was there to serve, not belong. I remembered every eye roll, every still driving that thing, jab, every dismissal that turned my silence into fuel. And now, I had carved a life from that silence. Not loud, not flashy, just solid. My logistics company had surpassed $20 million in contracts. We'd expanded into South America, developed eco-friendly transport solutions, and partnered with 2 international nonprofit orgs to ship medical supplies to disaster zones at cost. Impact. Legacy. Not just profit. Meanwhile, the house I lived in now, paid in full. It wasn't a mansion by choice. 3 bedrooms, full garden, custom kitchen design from scratch. Warm. Quiet. Mine. But the most important place in that house? The wall in my home office. One photo, framed in gold. Me and my mother, standing beside that old Corolla, both of us laughing. She was holding a manila envelope labeled incorporation papers. She never lived to see the company take off, but she saw the beginning, and that's what mattered. Once a month, I host a dinner, not for family, for the women I mentor. Young, fierce, underestimated women who remind me of myself at 19. They come with ideas, notebooks, nervous laughs. I watch them closely, how they talk about their dreams with disclaimers, like they've been told to be realistic too many times. And I tell them the same thing every time. They'll laugh at your rust. They'll roll their eyes at your silence. But when your jet lands, they'll pretend they were cheering all along. At one of those dinners, Tara, my one cousin who never turned her back, pulled me aside. You know, she said, they still talk about you. Whisper your name like a warning. I smiled. Good, I said. Because I wasn't their cautionary tale anymore. I was the consequence. And as I sipped my wine that night, surrounded by laughter, hope, and the hum of futures being built, I realized something. Success isn't just measured in dollars. It's measured in who you lift with you, in how you rise without stomping and teach others how to climb. They tried to mock me into silence. Instead, they watched me turn that silence into a platform. And now, they're still sitting at that dinner table. While I'm rewriting the menu, a year to the day after that infamous family dinner, Aunt Diane hosted another one. Same table, same roast chicken, same crystal glasses clinking under dim lighting. But this time, I didn't sit at the far end, waiting to be acknowledged. I wasn't even planning to go. I had a ticket booked for Tokyo, business class, not private jet this time. I liked to remind myself what it felt like to move among people instead of above them. But Grandma called the night before. Come. Not for them. For me. So I did. I wore the same coat they once called plain. Minimal makeup. No jewelry. Just me, still and solid. When I walked in, the room stilled. Leah glanced up from her phone. Tyler looked down at his plate. Uncle Greg offered a stiff nod. Aunt Diane tried her usual smile. Look who made it. I smiled back, gentle but unreadable. We ate in near silence. No one mocked my car. No one asked about my business. But not out of respect. Out of fear. Because they knew I wasn't the story anymore. I was the ending. After dessert, Grandma stood. I just want to say something, she said, voice trembling but proud. A year ago, someone at this table made a joke. A joke they thought was harmless. About an old car. About a young woman. And today, that woman has done more for this family's name than anyone here. Everyone went still. She turned to me. Renee, I'm proud of you. Not because you're rich, but because you remembered who you were when they tried to make you forget. I blinked back tears. And for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. After dinner, I walked to the driveway. My old Corolla still parked right where I left it. A dent near the back, faded hood, engine still humming like a fighter. Leah passed me on her way out. She looked at the car, then at me. You still driving that thing? She asked, no laughter this time. Just genuine disbelief. I turned slowly. No, I said. She blinked. I choose to drive it. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came. I got into the driver's seat, rolled the window down. You mocked me for staying grounded, I said softly. But you know what the sky teaches you when you fly alone? She stayed silent. That not everyone deserves to rise with you. Then I drove off. And as I turned the corner, I felt a strange peace. Because I hadn't destroyed them. I didn't need to. They were living in the ruins of their own arrogance. While I was flying. Not because of spite, but because I built wings from the very rust they laughed at. They mocked the car. But the car never broke down. I didn't either. And the silence that followed my takeoff was the sound of them realizing they never saw the driver coming.